you don't like something, you'll tell me.
Yeah, and it's not that everybody's going to laugh till they're peeing their pants at every joke everybody tells, unless maybe some they would. Right. Dangerfield, I almost do. And let me ask you this.
Yeah, Dangerfield is very good because he is just like...
Yeah, and we'll get to Dangerfield in a minute, but let me ask you...
But he was on it. I mean, just like one after another, dude. And he was just a classic genius. I mean, I don't even have words for his comedy. And see, Carlin was a little different in that perspective. That, yes, he was funny, but didn't always piss in the pants to make you laugh. It was more, Williams is kind of a little bit of Dangerfield and Carlin in the sense that he could entertain and make you think. That's why Williams was
that's comedian. Funny.
And I want to say his too, because to me they're always a lot. I don't care. I don't judge them for what they, I know Williams killed himself, but I don't judge him for that because I know they are all in a place, and it happens. They get in their worst. Comedians aren't always the happiest people, but that's why they use comedy to deal with those tragedies, to deal with those things that are painful.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of comedy. That's why I love it, because you take the shit and you make it better by facing it and by making a joke. Some people think, well, that's not really dealing with it, like Dr. Phil said that. Like, Dr. Phil, you're not a doctor and you're not a comedian. Like, that just, I don't want to go there with the negative shit, but that just kind of got to me that he would say, well, they never did, blah, blah, blah. I'm going, dude, if comedians didn't have comedy, they would have killed themselves long before, Like,
what is the difference? Let's don't look at this for a second. We talked about this a minute ago, but what is the difference, do you think, between provoking, as in causing someone to go, whoa, what was that? And think about it, versus offending? Is there a difference? Do you think some people go out to offend, or do you think some people go to just provoke and it accidentally offends? And do you think there's a difference? I think it's careful. I'm careful to try not to offend.
I think many times people choose to get offended. Now I'm talking about the reaction. I'm thinking about the reaction response of the person. But I will get to the motive of the comedian in a second. But I think the motive of the comedian is, sometimes they do that. However, I don't think that's their initial reason they want to get into comedy. And I can only speak from my own perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But what I see is the reason we want to make people laugh and feel better. But if people are jerks about it and they want to get bothered by every little thing, it's like, well, I can understand there are some boundaries you don't cross. People don't like being, picked on, whatever. That's fine. But what you have to do is you have to realize, comedians sometimes can be dickheads, but they're only human. So sometimes, they choose to be a little bit that way. Mm-hmm. I don't think they mean to, but I think generally 99% of the time we're in it. But we're human. We're fallen by nature. So sometimes we go in with the point of, I'm going to offend somebody tonight. I don't give a crap.
Yeah, and you because that's kind of like, instead of going and getting in a fight at a bar, you could just go and just offend somebody on stage and nobody really got hurt. I buy that. I am into it. Because me being a non-fighter, I'm not into that. I would rather get on stage and but I don't go out of my way to try to offend people, but to each their own. I think a lot of people do end up getting offended like I used to, because they just don't know how to get up and leave the room, or they don't know how to accept that, hey, maybe this comedy is just not for me.
Right, but you have to know, and I heard this, I think it was Bobby Slayton said this. You go to SeaWorld, you sit in the front, you're going to get wet, right?
Yep.
It's basically like that. Comedy is, you're going to go, they're going to say something you probably don't like. But if you really look at what they're saying, it could be to your benefit. It's like if somebody goes to me, you don't have a girlfriend sitting with you tonight. Well, what is it? Because you're picking your nose and you're chewing ice real loud and, I don't know, chewing on a straw, whatever, scratching your groin get offended by what somebody's saying. So I choose. We all have a choice in life, and 99% of the time, we can change things. There's some things we can't change. I have a comedian friend, and he's really funny, and you should have him on your show sometime. His name's Ricky G, and he's a cancer survivor, and he's in a wheelchair, and he makes jokes about it because he said, you know, God told him, you're going to share your story with others and inspire others. But our pain, we need to choose to overcome it. And that's how we overcome it, by humor. They talk about, you know, the senses of smell, like sense of eating, sense of taste. I said senses of eating. Jesus, no wonder I'm a fat ass. No. No,
Dude, you got a sense of eating.
Right? No, I'm actually, and I'm going to tell people, well, I'm trying to lose weight. Okay, I am losing a little, but you know how weight is, you know?
Well, I mean,
not get fat. No. I just made up a sense.
you are a little further along than the average Joe in the sense that the comedian is almost ahead of the game because they're already, you know, crazy in the sense of the way they see the world. So you're less likely to be offended than the average person. So respectfully, and I say this to myself, that's easy for us to say to the people that aren't comedians, to say, well, get over it and don't be offended. I think the way you're doing it is correct, where you go to the groups that need support in different ways, and we would say maybe they got hurt or maybe they have an issue, but your support of them through comedy is not to just walk into a random audience and tell the same joke to every audience. You look at your audience and you pinpoint it. Oh, like if you were a hunter, you wouldn't go hunting for an elephant with a bow and arrow, right? You have to use a certain kind of whatever it is. I'm not advocating elephant hunting, so everybody just take it easy out there. But there you go. It's a perfect example.
That you'd be a Republican if you're an elephant, right?
Of course, yeah. What about the audience? Is it up to the performer when they get booked to say, what's the audience? Or that's up to the producer to know that, right? Because if you get booked on a show and it wasn't a right fit for the audience, that's not your fault. I wouldn't say. I think that was the fault of the person that booked it in the sense of it's their responsibility. And if the audience doesn't like the comedy, that's not your fault as the performer. That's the responsibility of the person that booked the show. They should have known the audience.
And I've seen shows where they said this is a clean show. And yeah, the clean shows I've seen dirty. The funny thing is, I will get into this because I've seen shows where they say they're dirty shows that are cleaner than when they've said there's going to be clean shows. But sometimes you get people mad when they're a clean show and then somebody gets dirty. But then sometimes when they're expecting it to be clean and a comedian gets a little dirty, they actually laugh a little more because they don't expect it. But to me, I mean, you have, you know, comedy night, Latino night, all black night. They even did an Anglo-Saxon attraction, and to me, all women show and all this, that. I say, let's just make it a comedy show.
Me too.
You know, but I want comedy to be diverse. Don't get me wrong. I don't want it to be all just, you know, I like
boring.
It
yeah, boring. It was all the same. It'd all be boring.
But see, that's my whole thing. You're not going to have 4 or 5 George Carlins in one night. You want to get variety. Not that those comedians aren't great, but you've got to have variety because
good point.
It's boring. So
herein lies the challenge.
I'm going on something that's maybe a little different than what you were asking. So you were going into, is it the booker's fault if the comedian? It's a little bit of everything, and I think we need to remember that. And this is where you can let go of your ego and show some humility. Comedy is about the show. It's not just you. I mean, it's even the wait staff. It's even the guy in the front or girl. Oh, I got to be gender. You know, I can't be offensive. I got to be gender neutral. The woman, whoever's in the front. You know, I can't say Miss. I have to say Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head because I don't want to offend somebody. Or non-binary potato. Not even person because it can't be potato person. So non-binary potato thing. Whatever.
Yeah, grab them by the potato.
Now I'm calling it a thing, so somebody's going to get offended. But
that's the nature of the game, as it should be in our business.
A booker has to have a passion for what they're doing. And they have to say, this person, they have to think with their mind, body, and soul. And they have to go, this person is right for this gig. And yes, it's up to them to know who they're being in advance, because some comedians, they're hilarious. And if I had a dirty show, an old adult show, I know some places where certain people would smash it, and I know some people I'd just be like, I'm not having that person there because, yeah, they're going to say stuff. They're going to say stuff, and it's going to lose the audience. You know, you don't want to have, you know, Andrew. I mean, you could have Andrew Dice Clay at church, I guess, if he did a clean set, but, you know, I mean,
I have an opinion on that. I'll respond to that in a minute. Go ahead. You're saying a lot of stuff, Brian, to get my brain going.
People at college get more offended by Andrew Dice Clay, so there you go. I don't.
Yeah, there has been a shift. The shift in tone, even it's a paradigm shift, I think, for churches, as I would see it, given that my finger is on the pulse of, you know, I call it TV Christians. I don't call it real Christians, because everything on TV and the internet is fake, even if it's real. But,
yeah, fake news. There you go.
But the thing is, what I've noticed is, and this is where I think everyone plays a part on the team. We're all on the same team in that we're on the team of comedians. And also we're on the same team in that we're all on the same boat, in that we're all on the earth. We all have to make it, and we're all going to live on the earth for about, you know, on average, naturally speaking, if something horrible doesn't happen, or not horrible, but just the way it works, some people will live to be 60, 70, 80, 90, 110 these days. And then I would say, this means that we're all kind of doing the same thing, but different people in different parts of the boat have different jobs. And the comedian has the job of whatever it is that they have. And I think that for us, one of the things we bring is the mentality of variety and diversity without making it a rule and dogma. But we live in a world where a society, our particular world, not the whole world, but our, you know, let's call it America, where we have these rules where it is acceptable to say this and not acceptable to say that. And if you said the wrong thing 20 years ago, you're going to get in trouble these days now. So it's not easy, but I do think the key for being a good comedian is to not be offended yourself. That's the start. I think for me, when I look in the mirror, I say, I'm not trying to tell, you know, George Carlin what to do, or Michael Jr. what to do, or Brian PETRASEK what to do. What I'm doing is I'm looking at Randy and I'm saying, or my stage name, you know, Sarandel, what is my act? What is my role? And I say that my role is filling this job, pointing out to Christians how we as Christians can do a better job as following Christ, and then also laugh at ourselves when we're acting like we are when obviously we're not, you know. And it's not that I'm saying, oh, thou shalt be like me. What I'm saying is, hey, look, I noticed something funny. Let me point it out and see if you laugh. And if you don't think it's funny, great. But Andrew Dice Clay, I think, is a perfect example of, I think his material is just as relevant for anybody that claims to be a Christian, no matter what zip code or denomination, if they like it. And I'm not going to sit and say, because I don't like something or say it's not funny, nobody should listen. I just don't happen to think some Christians want to step outside of the box of the label clean Christian comedy, even though a lot of the Christian comedians that I see aren't even doing Christian comedy. They're just making jokes about people that they don't agree with. And I would say that's fine, but I would hold the Christian up to the standard of George Carlin, and I would say Carlin made fun of everybody, the secular, the religious, the non-religious, milk cartons, everybody. And I'm finding that Christian comics today are not doing that job, and I find it a deficiency, but it's not my role to tell them to change. It's my role to do that job myself. I see the need, I do it.